My name is Rob Paral, and I'm going to be talking to you about a way to access census data free and online and in a certain manner, and sharing that with you. And see, lots of people are joining, so I'll just kind of slow up a little bit. Hey, Alex, I see Alex joining. Nice to see so many people getting online. Thank you very much. Yeah, hey. Yeah, okay. So we are recording the session, and after the session, I think what we're going to need to do is send you an email where we can give you that link, but also because I think I'm going to follow up with some other information for you. We'll see if we do that or not. But so we are recording, and later on we're going to be in breakout groups, and I have allowed everyone to share their screen when they choose to, okay, in their breakout group. So we're going to be able to do that. And here's how our class is going to go, or our talk. I've set aside about 20 minutes for an opening of this class to describe to you what we're doing. What is microdata? What is the American Community Survey? How do you access the information from the University of Minnesota IPUMS site? You should have created a free account with them before today. If you did not, I would recommend that you don't do that now, but just stay with us and kind of watch other people in your breakout group, because I think we'll share screens there. So about 20 minutes of this kind of introduction, and then we're going to break out into groups for about 20 minutes where you will help each other do this. And you can explore together and create some data tables and talk about how to use it. And I'll join your breakout groups. I'll pop in, ask you if you're having trouble or not. And then after that, the final 20 minutes or so, we'll come back as a group and just talk as a group about issues that you found, questions you have, any other kind of observations. Maybe ask me to show you some other things that I haven't been able to show you so far. So that's the order of today's presentation. And where are we at? So, okay. Let me share my screen and show you. Give me half a sec here. And I'll need a little feedback in a minute to know whether I'm sharing the right thing with you. In other words, that you can see it, you know? Let's see. Okay. And hang on, folks. Doesn't look like you're seeing my screen right now.
I think it's showing us your desktop.
Yeah, show me your desktop.
There was an Excel sheet up.
Let me see. Do you now see a table, a PowerPoint slide?
Oh, yes.
You do see that. Okay. You know, there's usually a line around the screen to let you know that you're sharing it. And for whatever reason, I'm just not seeing that. Okay. One more second. Let me do something else here. Okay. So give me a little feedback. You guys do see this table here in front of us, right? It says summary table on it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There's a better way to show this, but I'm just going to go with what I think is going to work best for us right now. And we go to annotation here. And okay. So we're going to talk about the data today, census data, and I'm first going to start off by talking to you about two ways of looking at census data. The Census Bureau gives us data in two different ways. The first way is what you're looking at, which is that you can go to data.census.gov and you can get these tables that are called summary tables, okay? Give me a little verbal feedback that you saw me draw a blue or purple circle around the title summary table.
Yes.
Yes, we saw.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So summary tables are at the Census Bureau's website. It's a little difficult to use that website, but there's a lot of data in summary format. Hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of tables are available. And the reason there are so many summary tables available is that a table like the one we're looking at is available for every state, county, township, city, census tract in the United States. So there are thousands and thousands of geographies for which these summary tables are available for. And then on top of that, these summary tables are available for every time period that they finish a survey. So there's 2019, 2018, 2017, 2010, 2000, 1990. You know, there's this amazing amount of summary tables at the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau, in a way, was the original big data source in the federal government and in the United States, because they've been providing and working with huge data for a long time now. So this is a summary table, and I want to point out a couple things about it. This is a table about health insurance in the United States. And I look at the top of the table and I say, okay, it's got information on the total population in the United States. It tells me there are 323 million people in the US who are non-institutionalized. They're not in jail or nursing homes or in the military. It tells me how many are uninsured. You see that? And that's all very nice. It tells me there are 29 million people without insurance in the United States, health insurance. And that's where you go to get health insurance data that you'll hear of on the news or something like that. It comes from this survey we're talking about. I'll talk a little bit more about what the survey in particular is in a minute. But there's two other things that are important about this, this table. One is that this table does me a favor, and it tells me about health insurance by sex. It tells me that for females in the United States, there are 165 million women in the United States. That's good. And it tells me that 13 million women lack health insurance. So that's great. I can do a percentage calculation now, and I know what percent of women don't have health insurance. That's nice. The other thing that this table does, it breaks down the population by race and by whether someone is Latino or not. That's nice. And so it tells me there are 59 million Latinos in the United States. And it tells me that 11 million Latinos lack health insurance. So this summary table is breaking down the population by health insurance coverage. That's good. But here's the problem: is what if I want to know not just how many Latinos or how many women lack health insurance? What if I want to know about Latino women in particular? In other words, what if I want to interact this information? I have no way of doing it because this is a summary table, and it just is what it is. It's the kind of thing you download from the Census Bureau. So if you want data that allows you to do special tabulations on the population, you need to use the raw census records, okay? And that's what we call microdata. And microdata is where you get a data set that has every survey record in it. And I'll show you an example of that. And this is what microdata looks like. I made this table for you just to visually show you, but usually you would be looking at microdata if you use it at home. You'd be looking at it in SPSS or maybe R or SAS or some other statistical package. But here's microdata that you're looking at right now. And why is it microdata? It is microdata because there's a record for a woman named Olivia, a woman named Isabella, a guy named Liam. Individual records are here. And the Census Bureau releases this, okay? It does not put people's names on it. And it releases only a sample of the population. But it is the actual responses that people gave to the survey that came to their house, to the American Community Survey, which I'll talk about in a minute. So what does this microdata have? It's got, it tells me things about a person's gender. So I'm going to look at Olivia here. Olivia is a woman. She happens to be a Latino woman. She has no health insurance. These are the answers that she gave to the census form, to the American Community Survey. She said, I'm 23 years of age. She said, I'm not born in the United States. She said, I'm working, I'm employed. Okay, she gave all that information about herself. I'll talk about sample weight in a minute. Just to use one other person as an example, got somebody named Harper here. I can look at Harper's record in the microdata and find out that she's a female. She's not Latina. She has health insurance. She's an older person. She's 65 years of age. She's an immigrant too. And she's working. So this kind of information is what's displayed in microdata. Let me tell you a little bit about sample weights, which you don't need to worry about, but I want to just mention what they are. Every person in a sample, like the American Community Survey, has a weight. Everybody has a sample weight. And so, for example, in the case of Olivia, our first person here, Olivia equals 20 people. She is weighted to represent 20 people from this survey, so that when we look at the survey data, that weight is used by the software to add up all the data in a weighted way so that it equals the total population. Because we did a sample of the population, we did not go and survey every single person in the population. And that's why sample weights, that's why they're used. Olivia equals 20 people. Harper, that older 65-year-old, only equals 15 people. That's because more people like Harper were in the sample. So we didn't need to weight her that much. These are what survey weights are at. You don't need to worry about them today, because the software we're going to use just does it for you. No worries about it. Okay. Now I'm going to show you one more thing about microdata. Oh, I should have given one more kind of shout out as we started. I have no problem with someone asking questions, either verbally. I know there's like 75 of us here, but you can just ask a question. We can give it a try. If there's too many questions, then we'll say, let's not do questions right now. And then we've got a chat room here. Jackson's going to give me a hand looking at the chat room. And if you put a question in the chat room, Jackson Morsi, who's with me, he'll do a shout out of that question. All right, is everybody all right with that? Give me a little verbal feedback.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Sure.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, one more thing to show you about the microdata now. Just how it's used. Let's give you a little better example of how it's used. I'm going to go to the next slide. Remember that I was telling you, what if I want to know about Latino women who have health insurance? I need microdata to do that. So I'm going to go and show you that there's that microdata that we were looking at a second ago. Here's Olivia. She is a Latina woman. Here's Isabella. She's a Latina woman. And then there's Camilla down at the bottom. She's a Latina woman. So there's 3 Latina women in the sample here that I'm looking at. And the software does you a huge favor. The software takes their answers and combines them into Latina women, right? And in this case, the software says, well, what's their health insurance status? It says, well, one of them has health insurance. 2 of them do not. That lets me know that 2 out of 3 lack health insurance. So the software, collapsed the microdata into a nice table like this. You sort of created your own summary table, but from the microdata. That's what we're doing today. That's what it's all about. And we're going to use this free online software, which also has the virtue of being really quick, like way faster than if we were all doing it on our own software. Does anyone have any questions for me? No questions? Okay. Let's go over then to the actual software that we're going to use today. But actually, let me think if I should tell you one other thing. Yeah. A note on how you would do this at home if you didn't want to do this online. And when you get more advanced, you would download the raw data. And you would download it from the same place we're going to go to today, the University of Minnesota. That's where I go for it. It's better than the Census Bureau because they have packaged it a little better. You would need to use SPSS or SAS or R to process the raw data by yourself, if that's the way you want to do it. A lot of you are UIC students, and SPSS is available on pretty much all of the campus computers, like in the library or in the student center. They also have other software like ArcGIS, et cetera, but you can get SPSS there if you ever want to use it. Also, if you're a student, you can buy the package for a fairly low cost through UIC downloads. All of you, maybe you know about this, but you all should go to UIC downloads at some point. And when you're a student, download all the free software you possibly can, right? And SPSS is one of them. Maybe I think there's a cost, but it's pretty low.
Oh, Rob, we have a question.
Please.
So someone is wondering about the use of Latino Hispanic in the census and how they break that out between race and ethnicity.
Good, yeah. We'll look at the race and ethnicity question in a minute. First of all, in terminology, the Census Bureau uses the terms Hispanic and Latino interchangeably. Those are the formal federal terms. And Latinos can be of any race. I can be a Latino of African-American ancestry, of indigenous ancestry, of white European ancestry, but the Census Bureau considers me Latino. And my data as a Latino is treated kind of separately than the race data. Although, if I want to, I can use the microdata to identify Latinos who are African-American ancestry or white. I can do that kind of thing. So we're going to look at the Latino variable in a minute. So thank you. Yeah. Keep the questions coming. All right, now what I want to do is go over to the IPUMS site and make sure I'm sharing the right screen with you. So bear with me, everybody. I'm going to need a little verbal feedback here. Did you see the IPUMS site come up?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. We're on the IPUMS site. IPUMS is a product of the University of Minnesota. And before we talk about our data, I want to talk about some other things they have. They have a lot of stuff. Similar to what we're going to do today, but we're not going to get into it. They have data from the current population survey. If Ambrose is on, that's what we have talked about this week. It's a separate federal survey done for purposes of the workforce. There's an international microdata set that I never use, but looks kind of fun to me. There's global health data, and you can see on and on. Other health surveys. There's this NHGIS, which has those summary tables I was talking to you, packaged in a different way than the Census Bureau does. And on top of it, it's packaged for way back in time, like the 1900 or the 1800s. So you can get a lot of data there. So IPUMS is a great site to access the federal Census Bureau type surveys. All right, what we're going to do now is go into IPUMS-USA. Let me just make sure I highlight it. You're going to follow me along here. All right, we're going to go to IPUMS-USA. That's the basic one. I want to point out that the IPUMS-USA that we're going to use covers, I'm going to highlight it, the American Community Survey. What is the American Community Survey? Well, up until the year 2010, every 10 years when they did the federal census, they would also add on a bunch of questions about social and economic indicators. What's your poverty, your income, your education? They would do that just for 15% of the population. It was 1 out of 6 people would get an extra survey in 2000, 1990, 1980, 1970. That's the way they did it. And that was the only way we got the social and economic information. And that was all very nice, but the problem was you only got it once every 10 years. So what happened in around 2010, the Census Bureau said, okay, we're going to separate the census. And this last year was the census period, right? 2020. And they did the census just like they've done since 1810 or something like that. That went ahead just as it should have. But it doesn't have any social or economic questions on it. It doesn't ask your income or education or what kind of job you have. That is done now through the American Community Survey. The American Community Survey is fielded all the time. It's every year they come out with another wave of data. And it samples 1% of the American population. It's kind of an amazing thing because there are 325 million Americans. So 3 million is a 1% sample. 3 million people are surveyed every year. That's an enormous sample, right? Sometimes you hear on the news that 200 people were surveyed about who they're going to vote for. Well, 3 million is a lot better sample than that. On top of that, when we use the American Community Survey, we tend to use 5-year chunks of it. So it's year 2019 plus 2018 plus 2017 plus 2016 plus 2015. So now you've got 3 million each year. You've got 15 million records. It's an enormous sample. It's the most wonderful thing in some ways, okay? At least at the national level. Are there any questions? All right. We are getting to the point where you can play with the data. And we are about 20 minutes in, so I need to kind of scoot along here to get you to where you're able to do that. All right, bear with me. Get my mouse here. I am going to enter the IPUMS site. All right. I could create my custom data set here by downloading data and using SPSS, but that's not what we're here for today. We're going to just do it from the comfort of our home online. Agreed? And so, check out my mouse selected. We're going to analyze data online. Beautiful. They have, by the way, a new tool that we're not going to use today. They have this IPUMS abacus thing. I fooled around with it the other day. It looks kind of okay. It's simple. Okay, it's a little too simple for us, I think. But, so we're not going to do that. We're going to scroll down here. So you'll be trying this, okay, in your breakout groups. Let's remember, I clicked on IPUMS-USA. I clicked on online analysis, and then I had to scroll down a little bit. I just scroll down, and oh my gosh, what's it offering me here? It's letting me choose which survey period I want. And just for fun, look at that. They even digitized the 1850 census. They digitized the 1920 census. We could do tables of Italian Americans employed in construction in California in 1920. We could do that. It's pretty cool stuff. But what we're here to do today is to use the most recent American Community Survey. That's down at the bottom here, right? The last choice. It's the survey from years 2015. You see me highlighting it, to 2019. It's a 5-year survey, and it's just sitting here waiting for us to get at. So I'm going to click on that. All right. Okay. Feel free to ask questions. I want to show you a couple things here. This is going to let me make tables like the kind I was showing you before of Latino women. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Latino woman with health insurance table here. So I'm going to create a table that lets me have rows, right? Tables have rows in them. And tables have columns, right? So I'm going to tell the software which data to put in rows, what to put in columns. And in a minute or two, we're also going to filter the data. We're going to filter it out. We're going to tell it, don't look at the whole United States, look at Chicago, but we'll get there in a minute. So that's the core of what we're going to do to make a table. But let's play around a little bit. First of all, what information can you put in a table? All right. There's a selection panel here. This is where all the data is at that you're going to choose from. Okay. We're going to keep it simple today, and we're going to look at sex. We're going to look at whether someone's Latino or not, and we're going to look at health insurance. At least that's what we're going to do here. When you are in your breakout group, you can fool around with other things if you want. We'll see how that goes. Okay. And I'm going to clear my drawings here. So I'm going to use my mouse here. I'm off on the left-hand side. I hope you can see my mouse. I'm going to just take a look at some things here. Okay, under demographic, look at demographic there. Oh, there's the sex. There's the sex variable. All right, I like that. I'm going to take that sex variable. I clicked on it. It puts it up here. And that's variable selection. A little annoying the way it goes there. I could just type it in here if you see me. I typed it in here. The other way to get it in here is after clicking on sex, it shows up over here, and you could just say copy it to the row. Okay, questions? I'm telling the software what information goes in the rows of the table. All right, what do we want in the columns of the table? I'm going to noodle around over here. Demographic, below that is race. We'll get to that in a minute. Health insurance. Oh, they got a bunch of health insurance tables here. Give me a verbal shout out. Everyone seeing this? Everyone seeing all these health insurance tables?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Census Bureau is the original big data. There's so much you can look at. Look, for example, at the fact that in the topic of health insurance, I could look at health insurance that you get through an employer or a union. I could look at Medicaid health insurance. I could look at Medicare health insurance, Medicare through health insurance through the Veterans Administration. There's all kinds of health insurance I could detail here. We're not going to get that complicated. We're just going to look at the very first choice here, any health insurance coverage. The Census Bureau did us a favor. It just created a variable that says, yes, I got health insurance, or no, I don't have health insurance. So again, I'm going to go to my mouse here. I can click on that, right? And I put it up over here in the selection tool here, and I get it into the column. Do you see that's in the column here now? All right. So we're going to make a table that says sex by health insurance. And I could also have just typed in the name of the variable if I wanted to. HCOV, ANY. I could just type it in here if I wanted to. So, all right, let's make the table. Run the table. We're just in a browser. I'm in Firefox. Works good with Chrome. I haven't tried it with Safari. I can't answer too much about other browsers right now, but I'm Chrome and Safari for sure. I just clicked Run the Table. And I want to point out a couple things for you now. First of all, well, it gives me a bunch of information. It tells me that we made this table on February 15. It tells me here's the variables I used. I chose sex. I chose health insurance coverage. It did me the favor of weighting the data. I don't have to worry about that. It made me this nice table here down below that I'm putting kind of a square around. Isn't that nice? It made me a nice table. It told me for all the men in the United States, here's the ones with no health insurance. And if you can read that, it's a little dark. It's 16 million men, no health insurance. All right, let me clear these. We're worried about women today. So for females, told me there are 13 million females with no health insurance out of a total of 164 million women in the United States. So you could pretty easily figure out what % of women don't have health insurance, right? And let me point out something, another reason that I'm so impressed by census data and by IPUMS, is take a look at this, my little arrow here. Population of the United States is 300 million. This is a 5-year sample. It's got 30 million records that weight up to 300 million people. That table was made in a millisecond just by clicking OK. It processed 30 million records for you online immediately. If you were at SPSS at your computer or at the university computer using SPSS or R or something, and if you had downloaded the census records for the United States and tried to create a table, it would probably take you at least a few seconds to get it all done. It might grind down for a minute depending on how fast your computer is. So that's very nice about this online system. All right. I'm going to go back to my, you see I have 2 tabs open here, right? You see I have 2 tabs. I'm going to go back to the first tab here, which was, you know, the place where I told it to make this table. And I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to change the way the table looks. This is just me, guys. I don't like percentages in there. And I find those columns, when they're color coded, to be annoying. So I'm just going to hit run the table again. It's going to do the same thing for me, except now this table is just a little neater. All right. If I want to, we're going to pretty soon get over to you doing this. Okay, just bear with me. If I want to now, I could just real easily copy this and paste it into Excel or into Google Sheets and make a nicer looking table or make a pie chart or something like that. It's very easy to do that. Okay, let's go back to here. I think there's one more thing I want to show you. I realize I'm going over my 20 minutes, so just, I'm trying to hurry. One more thing I want to show you. This will get to how you explore these variables. And I'm going to use the Hispanic variable as the example. I'm going to close this window on the side here. And I'm going to open up the race, ethnicity, nativity panel. And there's a Hispanic origin, right? So I could put Hispanic into the table here, But I first want to find out about it. Like, what is it? What information is in Hispanic? And if you look up here, when you work with data sets, not just census, but any other survey, and in fact, practically all data sets have a code book that explain what the variables mean. So in this case, I'm going to go over to the code book, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on the variables, and I'm going to go down to that Hispanic variable, just explore it a little bit. Here it is. Might be going fast, but you should talk and say something if I am. Hispanic origin. Okay, here it is, giving me information on it. It breaks the population into not Hispanic, or Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, or other. Okay.
We have a question, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Ambrose asks, will we discuss comparing values for the same variable at 2 different points in time, all on the same table?
To do that, you would need, well, at least doing it online like this, you would do a table from one time period, and then you would either back out and then run the same table for a different time period.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
In fact, even just on a different tab of your browser, you can probably do it. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, that's doable. Thank you.
You could do 1960 on one tab and then 2019 on another tab. Yeah, thank you for the questions. So, okay, I just explored Hispanic. If you are if you're in the survey, you are Latino if you're coded 1, if you're coded 2, or if you're coded 3 or 4. That makes you a Latino in the survey, okay? So here's the last thing I'm going to do before we move on to your groups. I'm going to filter the data, okay? I'm going to filter it. I could go through here and choose the Hispanic. Oh, here it is, right here. And use, and in fact, it is up here, right? So I could say put it into the filter, and it gives me some parentheses. 1-4 are the codes for Hispanic, right? And if I run the table now, I run the table. Table's done. I know it's for Hispanics. It just created a national table for 58 million people. There are 58 million Latinos. Now I've got Latina women with or without health insurance coverage in my table. Okay. So now I've got that breakout of coverage by gender and by Latino status. Okay. All right. I've zoomed through a lot here. I think the biggest thing you need to know here is you're going to spend some time together in your breakout groups. You're going to explore these variables here. You might just try to redo what I did, maybe, or you can fool with other things. The economic variables down here under work will tell you about employment. I'm going to break you up into 20 groups, which is going to be about 4 people per group. And I'm going to ask you to do 2 things when you get in your group. Quickly, just establish a leader, okay? Whoever it is, say, who's going to be the leader here? Quickly, go through the 4 people in the group and say, what's your name? Where are you at? What are you interested in? I mean, we got some time. Why don't you take a moment and just introduce yourselves to each other? You can share your screen in the group. It might be easiest for just the leader to share their screen, and the rest of the folks in the group can either, watch the leader, but they also can say to the leader, go here, go there. That might be easier than 4 of you trying to share your screens back and forth. That might get a little crazy. Also, on your own, if you want to not be part of your group, I guess you could just go to another tab on your browser and look at things by yourself. There's 32 of us on here, so we're not going to do 20 groups. We're going to do 8 groups. Okay, 8 times 4 being 32. So
we have a question before we go to breakout groups. Someone asks, how do we look at different geographies?
Well, thank you. Yep, great question. Look over here on the panel, the selection panel, right? There's a geographic selection, right? And I'm going to go my mouse here and open up geographic. And you could choose state. Now, to get into this, you're going to need to spend a little more time figuring out the right codes for things. Like if you want to run the data for California, you would need to find out California's code, which is 06, I happen to know. And you would put it in your filter here. I'm typing it. If you can see the filter, you would type state BIP 06 would be California. Or if you wanted Illinois, it would be 17. I don't know if you can see me typing there. I just added in a filter for Illinois, state FIP 17. How would I find those codes? I would go to the code book and I would look up this variable called state FIP to find out what the code is. Yeah. Other questions?
Someone asks, is there a variable for zip codes?
No, not in the microdata. There is a variable for something called Pumas, which later on I'll come back to after your breakout groups. Pumas do break up the state of Illinois, for example, into smaller units. Chicago has about 26 Pumas. You could look at the several small sections of Chicago that way. Yeah, but not zip code, not in microdata. Other questions, please? Okay. Well, then here's the deal. I think I need to do, Jackson, keep me honest. I think I need to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to do the breakout thing.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, there we are. There's 31 of us. We're going to go into 8 groups. And I've never done this, so going down to participants. No?
I just wanted to make sure, before we go into breakout rooms, have you enabled us to be able to share our screen?
I did. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
And there is some way to call out for help when you're in your group. Help me find the breakout button here.
So down at the bottom towards the right, there's a breakout rooms button.
Pause, stop recording, reactions. I'm not thinking.
2 buttons over from that to the right.
From share screen. No, I'm not seeing it.
It's showing up for me, so maybe, let's see. Does it
There.
show up now? All right.
Okay, breakout groups. We're going to do, what did I say, 8 groups. Introduce yourself. Choose a leader. Have one of you share your screen is my suggestion. 20 minutes or so, okay? And have some fun. All right, here we go. I'm going to, how do I go from room to room now? Okay, I think we're back. Someone give me some verbal feedback.
Hi.
Hey, we're back.
All right. Well, how did this go with you? Let me hear some comments.
This
We
is
like-
Michael. I thought it's a pretty neat tool, and I think we were trying to do some comparisons of income by race and age or something, and we were struggling to figure out how to convert the variables from things basically how to clean the data so that you don't have a bunch of NAs messing with things and throwing things off. We got like median wages that were like way too high.
Yep.
So we were just curious. It seems like you can do some of that data cleanup, like removing NAs and grouping by age and things like that. But we weren't quite sure, and we were trying to mess with the regressions, and I don't think I could figure out how to interpret any of the information. But it was cool. It's like a cool way to not use R to do some of the things that you might want to do in R.
Okay. Let me thank you. Tell me a couple other things, and then I can share a couple of shortcuts or tell you a few things about it. What else did you encounter?
Our group tried to look at like rents by units in the building, and we got an error saying that we had way too many entries.
Same problem. I'll address that. Okay. Thank you. I'll come back to that. What else did you guys encounter, or what comments did you have?
Well, I kind of thought like we made a table that showed like the units in structure by race, and it was it was decent for like kind of like an on the fly table, but I just think it's kind of difficult to do on the fly because you have to, if you want to simplify it, like you have to know all the different codes for the different racial groups. Like if you want to show just white, black, Latinx, which obviously that's not a race, so you have to do a whole different thing for that. So I think it was just like, we made a decent enough table for sort of like an on the fly thing, but it's like, there would be more work and you'd have to be a little more methodical to like kind of simplify it in the way you would like.
That's correct. I'll show you something in a minute. I think I can show you something about that. And you're absolutely right that there are some limitations here, partly because of what you need to learn about the data, like what are the codes.
Yeah. I think there's a couple extra steps to really get like a useful table that like you kind of have to just go through and pick all the codes you want. It's not like you can just click like, oh, I want this.
Absolutely right. And by the way, that's equally true if you were doing this in SPSS. You'd still have to tell SPSS, break it down more finely or whatever. So you'll encounter the same issue even on your own software. Any other questions then? What else?
So our group had a question about the z-scores, what those are, and how would we go about interpreting those in our analysis.
Well, you're making me laugh because I can't answer that. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know. Usually, depending what you're doing, z-scores might matter a lot. But if you're doing a paper or a research report, or for a general audience that wants to know broader breakdowns, then it's not so relevant, or it's not relevant.
It has something to do with the accuracy of the estimate, right? Something like that.
Maybe Jim Lewis can join us now and tell us.
Yeah.
I think he's here somewhere. Yeah, I don't know these scores. Another questions or comments? What else did you find? All right, well, we got a few minutes. Let me show you a couple things, okay? Let me see if I can make sure I share the right screen here. Bear with me. Where is the screen I want to share? All right, let's see. Give me some feedback if you're seeing my screen with the IPUMS data. No?
No, don't see it.
No.
All right, let me try something else. Oh, I didn't hit share. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of things. 3 of you mentioned a problem. 1 of you said rent. 1 of you mentioned income. And 1 of you mentioned, maybe it was another income question. So income and rent and other variables are continuous variables, meaning they could have many, many different values. Age is kind of like that. You could have anywhere from 1 year of age to 99 years of age. So if you do a table on those variables, the breakout is huge. And at some point, the computer says, no, I can't give you a table by rent level because there are, 30 million different values. So that's when either online here or, in SPSS, you need to collapse and create categories. You need to change the continuous variable into a categorical variable. And on my screen, I'll just try and show you where you would do it, although we won't do it now. You can do it here online. And you would go up to, if you see on my screen, give me a verbal, up on the upper left-hand corner, I highlighted create variables.
Yes.
Yep.
You'll go there, you'll choose income, and then you'll choose 5 categories, 0 to 10,000, 10 to 20,000, 20 to 30,000. You'll choose your categories, and it will create a variable for you. And you would need to do that here or in SPSS when you have continuous variables. So that's the issue with that. And there's one other thing. Let's talk about the race, something about race here. Let me, on this table, show you a way to address that. See if I do it right as we're talking. We got the sex by health insurance coverage table here. Let's just to keep it in Chicago. I'm going to put Chicago just to make us. Let me do something a little bit simpler. Let's do sex by race, okay? And if I do sex by race, I just come up with this one table, don't I? Everybody sees it? Race by sex. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
So let's just talk about a little trick here. You can put this control variable to create multiple tables that break it down. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. You see how I'm putting Hispan in that control variable? You see that?
Yep.
All right, let's just see what that looks like. Let me clear the drawings here. It's going to give me multiple tables now, where it's going to iterate the data by every race group, by Latino or not. So here's the first table. We just looked at this a second ago. Race by gender. We've seen that already. But now, if you go down below, now we've got that same table for Mexican folks, race. I'm probably using you. For Mexicans, we have race by gender. Then if I go down a little further, sorry, you see it's for Puerto Ricans here. So you can create multiple tables along the lines of one of the variables. So sometimes this is what you need. Here's the Cubans by race. Here's the other Latinos. So or you could layer things by race and get at what you want. I don't know if I may not be explaining that very well, but using this control layer can help you get at some of these problems. Introduce a third variable. What else? Okay. All right. Anything else, please? We got a couple minutes here, and I'd be happy to hear any questions you might have.
So Cindy has a question. She asks, it basically allows you to stratify by a variable. Is that correct?
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly it. You could stratify the table by another variable. Yes.
Is there a reason why you would use this instead of bringing things into Excel, cleaning them up, and then porting them into, like, I understand the use value of having IPUMS just as easier to interpret than the census website with all of its weird tables. But is there a reason why you would use this online versus bring it into our SPSS?
two reasons. Well, first of all, one reason it's better is if I wanted a national table, I can create a table in a millisecond online that my own computer here in the basement of my house would need longer to process 30 million records. Okay, so it's a lot quicker to use the computing power of the University of Minnesota. And then the other reason that I use IPUMS is that sometimes I just need something quick for somebody, a friend or a reporter or a client, and you just kind of get it done. When you download the data, and I could show you how to download this, by the way, too. When you download the data and you get it all in your own computer and you got your R and your SPSS all set up, yeah, that's the best way. You can really do things more, you have a lot more power and control. But IPUMS is this intermediary, kind of quick and dirty and often very helpful. I use it all the time. Yeah.
So we have 2 questions in chat. So Liz says, I looked at the city variable and only a few cities had an in value.
Let's do that. That's a good question. Thanks, Liz. I'm going to go to the code book. Give me a shout out. You see the code book coming up?
Yes.
I went to city, and now I'm going to variable description, and I'm going to codes, lots of clicking. Okay, so let's take Aberdeen, South Dakota, all right? The very first city. You see Aberdeen? I've never been to Aberdeen. Well, in the 2019 ACS, no, it does not identify Aberdeen, South Dakota. You can't do it. You could do it from the 1930 census that they have available. You could do Aberdeen from 1910. You follow me? But if it doesn't have an X here, it's not available. Does that make sense? No.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just disappointing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, Aberdeen's a small city, so there's not enough people in the sample for them to do it. Akron, Ohio, just using another one, is available for all periods. All right. But yeah, that is that you use this table to know whether a certain city is available or not. Yeah.
And then Sean had a question about, is there an R package or packages that you're familiar with that allows you to pool the raw data?
I don't know R. I don't know anything about it, really, never having used it. I use SPSS. I guess with R, you would still download the data. Someone else can jump in here who uses R. Someone jump in. How would you use R? No. Yeah.
Yeah. Ethan, thanks. This is my question. Ethan flagging. So Tidy Census is a package that I think is great, and I use it to pull ACS data to 5-year or 1-year estimates, but I didn't realize that it had a link to PUMS. So I definitely recommend that for other folks if they're interested.
Okay.
And Cindy asks, can you explain how to use the Puma variable?
Oh, thank you. I was kind of thinking about that before. Yeah, I'm going to go to Codebook. I'm going to go to the variable list. I'm going to go to Puma to explore it. Puma is public use microdata area. It's right here, Puma. I'm going to go to the variable description of Puma. And I'm going to go down here. I was fooling around here today, and hang on one sec. I want to show you something. I went to codes, right? Puma codes, and I went down to a nice map they have here. Okay, a reference map of Pumas. And this is kind of fun because we're going to zero in on our favorite city here, Chicago, real quick, and see which Pumas are available. And there is something very nice about their little map here. Are you with me that I'm zooming into Chicago?
Yes.
And I've got these boundaries for Pumas. They have two kinds of Puma boundaries here, these yellow and purple. Right now, well, let's see, which layer is there? Oh, let's turn off the 2000 layer. How nice. Let's turn off the county layer. How nice. Boy, the things that are available out there, huh? So now I'm in Chicago, and you can see Chicago zooming in here a little bit. There we are. Those of you from Chicago, can you see what I'm highlighting here with my cursor? Roughly what part of the city is that?
Uptown, Edgewater.
Thank you. Thank you. You got it. I'm clicking on it. The pop-up tells me that this is Puma. You got to specify the state, state 17, that's Illinois. Here's the Puma code, 03501. And they do you the favor of telling you which Chicago community areas it is. It's Edgewater, Uptown, and Rogers Park. So I could generate data specifically for Edgewater, Uptown, and Rogers Park, which is a neat thing. And the city of Chicago is broken up into I thought it was 20 or more Pumas. It doesn't look like that right now. And they kind of screwed up the northwestern part of Chicago and put a little piece of the city into a suburban Puma, which is a whole other story. But basically, here's the Chicago Pumas.
Can you run a table on how you would like pull it for that specific community area?
You could do it for that specific Puma, right? So I could,
Right.
Here's what I would do. I'm going to copy this. I would go back here. I'm going to the selection filter of my table. I'm going to do, this is because I know the codes, guys. State PIP 17 is Illinois. And then Puma, I just copied it. Can you see that on my screen?
Yes.
You have to put the state in first, or can you just put the Puma?
You have to put the state in because different states have, they share Puma codes. Like there's a California Puma maybe that has the same Puma number. Make sense? So you tell the computer, look at Illinois Puma number, and then bear with me one sec. Let me clear the drawings. Let's get rid of some of these extra iterations. Let's just do a sex by race breakdown. This will just be for that Puma now. So let's just do a quick, what do you call it? A reasonableness check. Your reasonableness check always, you just first of all look at the total. 172,000 sounds about right to me for Edgewater, Rogers Park, was it West Ridge? If the total number was 20 million, I know I did something wrong, but that's about right for a Puma to have 100,000 people or 200,000 people. So I've got a race and gender breakdown for the northeast corner of Chicago here. And who's the biggest group while we're at it? Well, again, I didn't break out Latinos here. So the white group is going to include Latinos. That's numerically the biggest group here. Substantial Asian population in the northeast part of Chicago. Yeah. Does that help you? How about specifying the Puma?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you can specify it right here. You also could specify, I'm going to make this up right now, but if you wanted several Pumas, you put a dash and you would put, you know, whatever the other Puma's number is like that. It would do that range of Pumas. And then you could layer the tables by Puma if you wanted. You could do something like that. Okay. Other questions?
So there was a question, what is the typical city size that one can reasonably pull data from on individual year or 5-year ACS average?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Not to be funny, but a larger city, you know? The way to find out is to go to that table that we were looking at a couple of minutes ago, and it'll just tell you if, I mean, you're always going to be able to find Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Houston, back to a certain point at least, the larger cities. Yeah, I don't know what the cutoff would be. The Census Bureau is going to have its own, you know, cutoff. To really get into the weeds with you, you can create a city's data by figuring out what Pumas are inside of it and adding those Pumas up. But that's a whole other conversation. And sometimes Puma boundaries don't nest inside city boundaries. I hope I'm not being too obtuse. Other questions? Last thing. Oh, go ahead.
I had my own question that kind of came up in our group. How would you get smaller data like census tract data or census block, if that's possible?
Yeah, so microdata never available for tract or block. You are forced to live with the summary level tables that we looked at way at the beginning of the session. It's just never available. Puma is the smallest geography. I want to show you one other thing here. If I can do it right. Hang on. I want to. You can see the chat. I take it, right? My goodness, where is the? Sorry. If you look in the chat room, I can't find the chat. I'm just literally losing my mind here. I pasted, give me a verbal response. Can you look in the chat room and see that I pasted a link for this Wednesday at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
You see that?
Yes, it's got reference maps. No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at, I think you did the.
In the chat.
17th, 10 a.m.
In the chat, thank you. This Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I will sit at my computer with that link, and you can come back with questions about everything we've done today or something else you're doing. Does that make sense?
Including CPS questions?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Yeah.
Rob, I'm not sure if that was sent to everyone. I'm not.
Put it in the chat, and then why can't I get the chat screen back here?
It's at 11:07.
11:07.
I'm losing my mind. I just can't find the chat, how to show it.
So it's right before the question about Z-scores.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that on mine.
Well, I can just send it again, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, send that again, would you? Because I don't know why I can't get where I need to get. Oh, there's the chat room. Now I see the chat room. I put it up at yeah, at 11 to 7. I put come and ask me questions about the PUMS data. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Sorry, I got a little technically lost here at the end. Any last questions or comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me.
Thank you so much, Rob. And Rob is a fellow with Great Cities Institute. So be on the lookout for additional trainings some point in the future, hopefully. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks so much, everybody. Be